Introducing the Nifty Hockey League. So what the heck is this? Short answer is I've created 32 teams in NHL 24 for use in a custom league franchise mode, where you can expand the NHL by 16 teams with 16 minor league affiliated teams. I did this on my old Xbox One and did upload it to roster sharing if you can access that. So if you have been watching this channel and my personal channel EtherX Nifty, you probably think of me as the sim racing guy, and that's not unfair at all. And hey, I also really like Mario too. How's everyone's Mario Wonder experience going? I'm having a great time. But when I was younger, there was another game series I was a big fan of, the EA NHL games. Though, the 2K games were also great and are underrated in our collective memories. Now, it's been a while since the year-to-year changes on these games were, any good. But the idea of playing a hockey video game has always been fun to me. During the quarantine times, I also took on a graphic design project where I created a bunch of different team uniforms in Photoshop, just for fun. But then NHL 23 and now NHL 24 offered something great. Franchise mode with 48 teams, including 16 created teams. This was a perfect storm for me. And over on the EtherX Nifty channel, you're going to start seeing some gameplay pop up from a franchise mode here. And I'll stream it to EtherX Social on Twitch and maybe other streaming services as well. But before then, I wanted to put up a video explaining what, how, and why with this project, because it was very time-consuming. Which was kind of nice. I'm not fishing for the sympathy card, but someone in my real-life family passed away in October, and spending a time not being a personality and just modifying sliders in a video game was kind of nice, relaxing, and kind of a quiet pace to things for a couple of weeks. So, what did all that slider modifying get me? Let's take a look. In the custom league option of franchise mode, you can create a league of up to 48 teams. Of course, I did this, adding 16 teams to the existing NHL. But each of those teams also needs a minor league affiliate for the AHL. The game automatically assigns European leagues to those affiliates, but instead I made 16 additional teams to be minor league affiliates instead. I also did my best to put these teams in arenas that look like the arenas they would be playing in. Obviously, I only have so many templates in the game for what those arenas can look like, so it was the best I could do. But that should add some more realism to the thing. Then, those teams needed players, and this is the time-consuming bit. It seems like a lot of EA NHL content creators, who are, way more experienced in this than I am, but it seems like a lot of them at this point just run a fantasy draft at this stage, jumbling up all the players in the league. Suddenly, Alex Ovechkin's playing in Quebec, and Sidney Crosby's in Washington, and Connor McDavid's in Pawnee, Indiana. And that kind of breaks my immersion. So instead, I raided the European leagues, taking a combination of the best players from over there that, importantly, did not have their NHL rights retained by an NHL team. So if your favorite prospect for your favorite team is playing in the Swedish Hockey League right now, don't worry, he's still a prospect for your favorite team in my franchise mode. He's not been removed and he's not been duplicated. At least, ideally. I'm not saying mistakes couldn't have happened here. Maybe there's going to be some twin out there of somebody, I did my best. But either EA underrates these European stars, or they're not very good, or a little bit of both, because they're not NHL level players, despite some familiar names. So I went through and boosted the attributes on these players to make them NHL ready, or at least close to it. And by no means are these stacked teams. These created teams are barely NHL ready, and that's what I really wanted. If we're going to do the franchise mode thing, let's make it a challenge. If you're wondering what the formula was here, forwards received a +4 boost to every attribute, defensemen received a +6 boost to every attribute, and goalies received a +3 boost to every attribute. This increased forward overall ratings 7 points, defenseman overall ratings 9 points, and goalie overall ratings 6 points. After all of that, customizing the league's divisional layout and the AHLs came next. So some teams are in some new divisions, and we'll get to look at what those are in a minute. Assume that better players on the minor league teams will be called up to play on the NHL roster. The reason I did it this way was so that if you download these rosters, you can mix and match whatever teams and affiliates you'd like, and make whichever of these teams the NHL club, and whichever one of these teams the minor league club. without further ado, let's go division by division and introduce the Nifty League here. First up, in the new provincial division, is the Halifax Highlanders. This club's identity is an homage to the movie Goon, where the hockey team goes by the same name. The Highlanders play in Scotiabank Centre, which you'd have to assume had the capacity upgraded. You'll probably have to assume that for a lot of teams in this project, but yeah, the Highlanders are playing in Scotiabank Centre. Oh boy. And now comes the bit where, in particular, Europeans are going to hate me as I try to pronounce a massive amount of teams from Europe. So please forgive me as we move forward here. But I made the Highlanders roster using players from the SHL's Frölunda and the Czech Extraliga's Česká Budějovice. Probably. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know. I screwed that up, and then I tried to correct it, and I probably screwed it up worse. But look, just get used to that. Nifty is an idiot, and he's an American. I'm sorry. I know that's not even slightly close to right. But okay, moving on. Their minor league affiliate, at least in my franchise, is the Providence Narwhal, playing in Amica Mutual Pavilion. Their team identity is 100% a creative thing, just mostly based on the cool Narwhal logo available in the game, and I wanted to give them a very 90s color palette for no good reason. Their roster is made, their roster is made from Deutsche Elite League's EHC Red Bull München and Finnish Elite League's Hämeenlinna HPK. Again, super positive I'm butchering these names, please forgive me, and going forward, forgive me for those too. Our next expansion team in the provincial division is the Hamilton Tigers. The Tigers play in First Ontario Centre and are based off the long-defunct NHL team of the same name. The Tigers existed in real life from 1920 to 1925. In a funny story, the Tigers finished the 1924-25 season in first place in the NHL, but did not compete in the playoffs because the players went on strike for increased pay. The team, which was first in the league, was folded, and their assets were sold to the upstart New York Americans, which is just amazing. I just love old hockey history stories. The current Tigers that I've made here, their players are from the Swedish Hockey League's Färjestad and Czech League's Bílí Tigry Liberec. Yep, that's wrong. Their minor league affiliate is the London Werewolves. While playing in London, Ontario, their club name is a reference to Werewolves of London, the classic rock standby performed by Warren Zevon? I can't even pronounce English words right. See, I'm just an idiot all around. They play in Budweiser Gardens, although I forgot to add that when I uploaded the shared roster, you'll have to change that because I forgot to add that Budweiser Gardens name into the team. But the arena is designed to imitate it, so, use your imagination. The roster is a combination of Finland's, Jyväskylä JYL and the Deutsche Elite League's Dusseldorf. I can say Dusseldorf. Our final entry in the provincial division is the return of the Quebec Nordiques. The Nords started life in the defunct rival league of the NHL, the World Hockey Association, in 1972. When that league folded, they were brought into the NHL in 1979. It's a crime that EA doesn't have a template with a fleur-de-lis on it because that's what the Nordiques' iconic look was, borrowed, and you've seen that borrowed by the Avalanche on one of their recent throwback jerseys. The alternate is inspired by the uniforms the club was set to switch to the year they were relocated to Colorado. They play in the Videotron Center and have a roster of players from Sweden's HV71, or probably HV71, and the Finnish league's Mikkelen Jukurit. Maybe. Hopefully I got that right. Their minor league affiliate is the Montreal Maroons. This is another resurrected team from the NHL's long-forgotten past. Playing from 1924 to 1938, they won 2 Stanley Cups. They were formed as a team for the Anglophone population of Montreal, and I'm a little weirded out by the assumed xenophobia of that whole origin story to dig into it further. As a piece of trivia, they're the last team to win the Stanley Cup that no longer exists. Their roster has players from the National League's ZSC Lions. Hey, I can say all those things. And the Deutsche League's ERC Ingolstadt. Maybe I did all right with that one. All right. One team has been added to the Atlantic Division, and it's, of course, the Hartford Whalers. The Whalers were also a refugee of the collapsed World Hockey Association like the Nordiques. And also like the Nordiques, they were relocated, this time to Carolina in 1997, becoming the Hurricanes. But these Hartford Whalers play an XL Center and are home to players from Sweden's Malmö Redhawks and Finland's Oulun Karpat. Okay. Their minor league affiliate is the AHL's defunct Peoria Rivermen. While for every other team, I took into account NHL history and population numbers in North America and the clubs. For this one, I brought back a team I was familiar with from my childhood. As a St. Louis Blues fan, the Rivermen were St. Louis's farm team for a long time. And I still sometimes accidentally say, they sent that player to Peoria instead of whatever current affiliate the Blues have. I don't even know. Anyway, the Peoria Rivermen are playing in Peoria's Civic Center and feature players from the National League's SCL Tigers and Germany's Eisbären. Moving over to a new division I created called the Rust Belt Division is the Cincinnati Stingers. The Stingers were part of the WHA, the World Hockey Association, from 1975 to 1979, but unlike Quebec and Hartford, they did not survive the collapse of that league. With the logo here, I did my best to make a bee, okay? I know, it's a bird's head, I know. But if you squint, turn your head a little, maybe it's a bee coming at you as Stinger first. Look, I tried. EA doesn't give you a lot of options. If I could upload logos, things would be way better. These Stingers are playing in Heritage Bank Center and have players from Sweden's Leksands and Finland's Tampereen. Their minor league club is the Cleveland Barons. And I was 50-50 on which one of these two teams to use as the NHL club and which one to use as the minor league team. Ultimately, I chose the Stingers because I just like the colors better, but the Barons have a history all their own, and it goes way back. From 1937 to 1973, they were an AHL club, but then in 1976, the NHL relocated the fledgling California Seals and gave them the Cleveland Barons name. However, the NHL Barons only lasted 2 seasons before being absorbed, I guess, into the Minnesota North Stars. In my season here, they're playing out of Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse with National League's SC Bern and Germany's Augsburger. Moving down to another new division, the Sun Belt Division. We got the Rust Belt, and then we got the Sun Belt. And we've got some teams here, too. First things first, of course we resurrected the Atlanta Thrashers. Playing out of their old home State Farm Arena, recreating their jerseys was actually pretty easy in the game. Most of the templates are very accommodating for that. The Thrashers are the most recent NHL club to relocate, now living in Winnipeg as the Jets, of course. These Thrashers consist of players from Sweden's Linkoping and Finland's Tappara Tampere. Or however you want to pronounce it. Their minor league affiliate is the Miami Eagles. This team identity comes from history. Obscurely, remember the World Hockey Association, that rival league to the NHL. Well, one team that was supposed to play in it was the Miami Screaming Eagles. However, they never took to the ice, being relocated to Philadelphia as the Philadelphia Blazers before the season began. But playing around with the Miami Vice colors is too much fun, so here they are. They're playing in the I can't even say American words. They're playing in the Cassia Center with rosters from Switzerland's Rapperswil Jona Lakers and Germany's Grizzlies Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg, probably. Our next club joining the NHL is the Birmingham Bulls, and surprise, this identity also comes from the WHA. And like the Stingers, when the league folded, the Alabama-based club was not invited to the NHL. They're playing in Birmingham's Legacy Arena, kind of appropriate. The original colors of the club were red, white, and blue, but that's done by way too many teams already. So these colors are inspired by the AHL's defunct San Antonio Rampage, with some bright yellow thrown in for added flair. The Bulls use players from Sweden's Luleå and the Finnish Liiga's Turku TPS. Their minor league affiliate in my franchise is going to be the fictional hockey team, the Omaha Mammoths. I grabbed this name from a defunct American football team. Apparently there was a startup minor league in the mid-2010s that meant to be a feeder league for the NFL. I didn't know this, but alright, whatever. So whatever, they folded 8 years or so ago, and the name was cool, so I took it. The Mammoths will be playing in the CHI Health Center with National League's Lausanne and the Deutsche Elite League's Iserlohn Roosters. Our last addition to the Eastern Conference is the Virginia Rhinos, only because I couldn't name them the Hampton Roads Rhinos. This is one of those clubs that almost happened but didn't. There was an interested owner in place in the mid-90s. He had a name, he had some sketches for logos, and a color palette ready for the team. But when the Whalers relocated from Hartford to Carolina, so the story goes, the league didn't want to put a team in Virginia as they feared it was too close to the market in Carolina, which doesn't make sense to me. Virginia's a lot closer to Washington, D.C. than Raleigh, at least as far as I remember on a map. But okay, they'll be playing in Norfolk, at Norfolk Scope, and their team is made of players from Sweden's IK Oskarshamn and Finland's Vasen Sport. Maybe I got those right. Those look easy, but I'm sure I screwed it up. Their minor league affiliate is another lost WHA franchise, the Baltimore Blades. The Blades existed for the 74-75 season after being a relocation of the Michigan Stags, who themselves were a relocation of the Los Angeles Sharks, who were renamed after the Los Angeles Aces folded, or needed a rename, or whatever. Gee, it's a wonder why the WHA didn't make it. My Blades, the Baltimore Blades, will be playing out of the CFG Bank Arena with players from Lugano and Colner High. Alright, let's move to the Western Conference and butcher some completely new European League teams. And in the Central Division, we'll find the Milwaukee Hogs. I took the hog name from the slang term for a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, which Harley-Davidson is headquartered in Milwaukee, so that's how that all fits together. I even tried to get their uniforms to kind of evoke something of a leather jacket. Not sure that worked. But anyway, they play out of Fiserv Forum with players from Sweden's Modo. Please tell me it's just Modo. That looks like such an easy word. And the Czech League's Dynamo Pardubice. Pardubice? Sure. You gotta love like my second swing at these, and they're probably like both swings are terrible. And again, that's just ignorance on my part. I'm not criticizing European languages. I'm just an idiot. But let's move on. Their minor league affiliate, the Milwaukee Hogs minor league affiliate, is the Tulsa Tempests. And that's just another completely fictional team I created. A tempest is a slang term for a tornado. And in Oklahoma, you'll find those plenty. Nothing deeper into the team name than that, though. They're the Hurricanes of the Plains. Though there wasn't a particularly good logo for the cause in the game, so the hockey yin-yang logo is what we get here. BOK Center is the Tempests' home, where players from Switzerland's Freiburg-Gotteron and Germany's Leuven-Frankfurt have found a home. Next in the Central is the Indianapolis Racers. You might think this name comes from me and my hours of IndyCar content on the channel and deep love for the sport, but no. Because maybe I couldn't even call them the Indianapolis Racers because of stupid contracts, IndyCar signs. But no, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that. The Indianapolis Racers are actually another defunct WHA franchise. The Racers' biggest claim to fame is not the also red, white, and blue uniforms they wore, but instead the fact that they were Wayne Gretzky's first professional team ever. The team was in dire financial straits and essentially sold Gretzky to the Edmonton Oilers to keep the franchise afloat, and that's when both teams were in the WHA. In 2023, I've made their home the Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Their roster is made from Rogel BK and Cometa Brno. Their minor league affiliate is the New Orleans Paladins. A paladin is a type of French knight, but also with some religious origins in the medieval era. With the New Orleans' deep French and Catholic roots, I thought this was a fair connection to make. They're playing out of the Smoothie King Center with Davos from the National League and Nuremberg Ice Tigers from the DEL. Now to the Southwest Division, and we'll find the Kansas City Express. I took this name from two places. The first, and maybe most obvious, is the Pony Express, an old branch of the U.S. Postal Service that delivered mail during westward expansion. While the Pony Express wasn't based out of Kansas City itself, it was based out of western Missouri, and that's probably close enough. This let me use a horse logo without having to call the team the Scouts, the name of the defunct NHL franchise from Kansas City. The Scouts name and logo had some potentially troubling Native American connections that are probably best avoided in the 21st century if you can. The second angle on the team name is that Kansas City is used as a major railroad hub in the United States, so Express works either way, Pony Express or Train Express. They play in the T-Mobile Center, and their roster is made of Skellefteå AIK and Oscillary Trineck. Their minor league affiliate is the California Seals. This was one of the original NHL expansion franchises, along with the Kings, Blues, Penguins, Flyers, and North Stars. However, the Seals, after hopping around the state of California a bit, ended up in Cleveland, becoming the aforementioned Cleveland Barons. Here they're in Sacramento, playing out of Golden One Center with Switzerland's Ambri Piotta and Germany's Schwenninger Wildwings. Probably, maybe not even close. Next up are the Austin Bats, named after the famous bats that live under the Congress Bridge in Austin. There even used to be a minor league team called the Austin Ice Bats, though I find ice anything in hockey as a team name to be kind of cheesy. It's like, of course, they're ice bats. It's ice hockey. It's like in a Mario Kart game, when Mario Kart names a course Dry Desert. Of course it's dry. It's a desert. It's a dry desert. Anyway, I tried to give the team a sort of paranormal Batman vibe with the colors. They play out of the Moody Center, although this is another one of those instances where I forgot to work the arena's name in. But I put in the work to make the arena look like the arena. So in, quote, Aces Arena, unquote, that looks a lot like someone trying to make the Moody Center, you'll find players from Sweden's Timra and Czechia's Sparta Praha. Their minor league affiliate is one of the more fun ones I had here, the Hawaii United, or just Hawaii United. One of the biggest symbols Hawaii has is its rainbow, and you'll find it all over the state and all over their documentation and the such. Their college sports team is also called the Rainbow Warriors, which is why I used a warrior logo here. At least in my head that works. But the rainbow theme on the jersey comes from that too. They play out of the Simplify Arena, and making the long trek to the Pacific Paradise are HC Ajoy and Straubing Tigers. Our last team in the Southwest Division is the Houston Apollos. You hear a lot about the Houston Aeros for Houston hockey, and for good reason, but the Apollos actually predate them, playing in the Central Hockey League in 1965. Both teams started with an A and played on the connection to NASA in the city, so I figured to take the more obscure one, just because I guess I'm a hockey hipster. Apollos being named after the Apollo astronauts who led the U.S. into space and eventually onto the moon in the 1960s. These Apollos play out of the Toyota Center with players from Vaxio Lakers and Verva Litvinov. Houston's minor league affiliate is an idea so novel yet so obvious that NHL 24 doesn't even let you try it officially. But ask yourself, isn't it obvious to put a sports team in the largest city in North America? If you agree with that, then you'll find the Mexico City Mexicans are an easy addition. I figured in the NHL, you've got the Canadians, and you had the Americans. Why not the Mexicans? They're playing out of Mexico City Arena, funny enough, but the game doesn't actually let you call a team Mexico City or Mexico or anything like that, so this club is technically listed as the New Mexico Mexicans. So maybe it's a tax dodge. Who knows? Anyway, they're playing with players from Genève Servette and Cuckoo Kuvola, which, if that's how you say it, that's a fun name to say, Cuckoo Kuvola. Moving north and west now, I created a division called Cascadia, and one new team resides in it, the Portland Rosebuds. Though new might be the wrong word, this is a recreation of the Pacific Coast Hockey Association's club, which was founded in 1914. That club was also notable for being the first U.S. team to play for the Stanley Cup, but they lost to the Montreal Canadiens in 1916, 2 years before the formation of the NHL itself. Also worth note, the Rosebuds name was used again in the 1920s, only for the assets and players of that club to be sold to a startup club by the name of the Chicago Blackhawks. In the modern day, I suspect a Portland Rosebuds club would play out of the Moda Center, and manning the club are players from Arebo in Sweden and Vidovici Ridera in Czechia. Their minor league affiliate is the Alaska Glaciers. This is another completely fictional one. I took the Glaciers' name from a very cool species of bear local to Alaska called the glacier bear. They're notable for having bluish fur in their faces, which I just think is neato as hell. But the bear also borrows from the defunct Alaska Aces legacy. This team is playing out of the Sullivan Arena with Switzerland's Zug and Finland's Lahden Pelicans. I like it, Europe, when you use American words. Well, English words. I guess, British people call them Pelicans too. But I like it when you use English words as your team names. Pelicans, good job. Our last division takes us to the classic Pacific Division, and we'll find two new additions here. First is the San Diego Mariners, who take their name from yet another defunct WHA franchise. They, at least, were a somewhat successful WH franchise, though, having a winning record. They were owned, at least in the end, by Ray Kroc of McDonald's ownership fame. They play in Pechanga Arena with a roster made from Germany's Adler Mannheim and Czechia's Skoden Blitzen. Their minor league affiliate is a total fabrication, the Saskatoon Atomics. I like the name because it sounds old-timey, like something out of the 1950s, the Saskatoon Atomics. But also, Saskatoon is one of the world's largest producers of uranium. I bet you didn't know that. So, the Saskatoon Atomics it is. They play in SaskTel Center with players from Clawton and Lapinranta Saipa. I'm sure the second attempt didn't help. Last up for our expansion franchises is the Utah Venom. There's not a lot to this name. There's a snake in the game. It makes it a V shape. Snakes live in Utah. There you go. The orange and green is simply because it's a basic color scheme that isn't represented in the NHL. If I were to rethink the team, maybe a name around seagulls, given that's so important to Mormon history, or alternatively, with the green and orange palette, I've messed around with a team identity called the Cutthroats, which is a type of fish that's green and orange that lives in Utah. But for this experiment, we've got the Venom. They're playing in Delta Center with Helsingin IFK and Ritiri Kladno. And their minor league affiliate is the Spokane Canaries. This is another ancient team from the defunct Pacific Coast Hockey Association, just like Portland. They played in 1916, 1917, and then they went out of business, I guess. But they had an iconic purple and yellow color scheme, which I just thought was fun to play with. They're playing out of Spokane Arena, imagine that, with the National League's BLBN and Europe's Ice Hockey League club, Migros Supermercati Asiago, which is the first and only team I've used from that league. And that's it. Those are all the teams I created for the franchise, and we're going to watch me play through a franchise mode of that. I'm probably going to be the Hartford Whalers. If there's a European club I missed, like in going through this to make the script, I'm thinking I missed Mountfield in the Czech League at the very least. I might expand, create new teams in the future, and I'll incorporate those teams. The game lets you create, I think, up to 50 teams, so who knows? Maybe I'll release an update to this where I create more North American-based teams. But that'll do it. Those are the teams for the franchise. I'm thinking, franchise mode that is. Like I was saying, I'm thinking I'll play as the Hartford Whalers, but let me know if you'd rather see me play as a different team. And I'll be playing some actual games, not just simming through whole seasons. I'm thinking I might simulate the first 2 periods of a game and then play the third. And I've been messing with sliders, trying to get some realistic hockey out of the game with, mixed results. It's an EA game. But come along on that journey with me. I'll be streaming it on EtherX Social, and I'll be making it into a series on EtherX Nifty. One final thought. The voiceover for this video might have been pretty rough. I did it in basically one take, so please forgive me for mispronouncing all of those European team names. Please forgive me for stumbling over some speech. This was a one-take Nifty kind of moment. Thanks, and I'll see you guys around.